They didn't just exile Earth, they erased it. The Council, bloated with arrogance and fear, cast their votes with smug certainty, believing Earth would crawl away and die in the dark. But they forgot who we were. They forgot what humans do when we're cornered, when we've got nothing left but spite, steel, and time. My name isn't important, not anymore. I was a diplomat once. Now I wear scars instead of medals and command an armada born out of vengeance. But back then, I was just a man in a room full of aliens, watching our fate get sealed with a ceremonial stamp and a spineless smile. The chamber was silent after the verdict. No appeals, no second chances. Humanity was stripped of all interstellar rights, labeled a threat, and cast out. The crime? We advanced too fast. We developed warp tech without permission. We explored restricted systems. We asked questions they didn't want to answer. We were too curious, too unpredictable, too human. The Council wanted obedience, not evolution. So they made an example out of us. They shut down our stations, blockaded our system, and forced all non-Earthborn humans off-world to declare new loyalties. A lot of them did. I didn't. I remember the last thing I said to that room full of smug xeno-bastards. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just said, "You'll regret this. We built civilization from fire and ash. You think we need your blessing to become gods?" I meant it. The first years after exile were brutal. Earth lost most of its off-world supply chains. No tech, no medicine, no materials. Millions died. Governments collapsed. We fought over food, over shelter, over pride. But we didn't stay broken. We rebuilt underground, in orbital debris fields, in abandoned stations the Council thought were useless. We reverse-engineered everything they left behind. We stripped down old satellites, hijacked forgotten drones, and started building again. Not cities, but weapons. Not peace, but force. By the time I returned from Europa Station 5 years later, Earth was no longer begging for mercy. We had formed something new, the Iron Reclaim, a military alliance forged from rage and necessity. Not a single politician, just soldiers, engineers, and survivors. We didn't make speeches, we made fleets. Ships were named after the cities we lost: New York, Damascus, Lagos, São Paulo. Not for nostalgia, for remembrance, for fury. The flagship I was given command of, the Ashborn. Fitting. We weren't trying to start a war. We were preparing to finish one. The Council didn't care about us until our fleet broke through the Kuiper Belt with enough firepower to wipe out a moon. Suddenly, the galaxy remembered Earth, and they were terrified. We sent a message, one sentence, broadcast across all known systems. The exiled are armed, and we're coming home. Now I sit on the bridge of the Ashborn, watching as our ships, dozens of them, black as vengeance, move through the void like a storm made of metal. Every one of us has lost something: a brother, a city, a future. We came to reclaim it all. This wasn't diplomacy, this was justice. They say space is silent, but they've never heard the hum of vengeance. I stood on the command deck of the Ashborn, eyes locked on the holomap. A crimson field, blinking with dozens of human-made warships, lit up the room. The smell of oil and recycled air hung thick in the air, a far cry from the sterile scent of Council cruisers. That was the difference. They built for diplomacy. We built for blood. "Fleet is aligned and ready for burn," said Commander Strath, my second in command. His voice was cold steel. No emotion, just facts. That's why I kept him close. The man had survived the siege of Titan with one arm and half a lung. Council troops called him a ghost after that. We just called him the last man standing. "Confirm trajectory," I ordered, not looking up. "Target Syndic Relay Station, full blackout mode." The Syndic Relay wasn't a military outpost. That's why it made the perfect first strike. It was a communications hub on the edge of neutral territory, managed by the Soren, one of the Council's lapdog species. Too soft to pose a real threat, but connected enough to send a message. "Message," Strath repeated, almost smiling. "We're past messages, Commander." "I don't want a war," I said. "I want them to think one already started." He didn't reply. He didn't need to. Ashbourne rumbled under our boots as its fusion core prepped for silent burn. No bright flashes, no radio traffic, just mass, heat, and velocity. A ghost fleet cloaked in sensor scramblers, slipping through black space like a knife under a diplomat's robe. That's how Earth learned to fight. Dirty, quiet, and without rules. Because the Council taught us the hard way that rules only protect those at the top. I left the deck and stepped into the briefing chamber. My officers were already gathered. 6 men. No politicians, no diplomats, just fighters who'd bled on ice moons and asteroid belts. The walls flickered with mission data as I began. "This is no recon op," I said. "No mercy, no prisoners. This relay goes down, and the Council feels it. They'll know Earth is back, and we're not begging anymore." Lieutenant Commander Brax leaned forward. Big guy, used to run mining ops on Mars before the Council bombed his settlement in a containment sweep. He lost his wife and daughter in that fire. Since then, he'd become the kind of soldier you don't send to negotiate. You send him to end things. "What about the civilians?" Brax asked, voice like gravel. I hesitated for a half-second, just enough to feel it. If they're smart, they'll run. If they fight, they chose a side. It wasn't the answer he wanted, but it was the truth. The galaxy had made Earth choose a side long ago. Survival or extinction. We chose survival. The cost wasn't the point anymore. Dismissed. They left without words. Men who already knew what needed to be done. Men who'd buried too many to be talked out of what was coming. Back in my quarters, I poured a glass of black rum from the old Earth reserves, one of the few luxuries I allowed myself. It burned like guilt down my throat. I sat by the console and opened a file labeled Elias Darrow, Archive. The name hit like a brick. Elias was once my friend, my ally in the Council, the only non-human who voted against Earth's exile, and yet now he sat as the prime arbiter of the same Council that abandoned us. He'd betrayed more than just Earth. He'd betrayed me. I played the last message he'd sent me, 4 years old now. "You don't understand what you're doing. If you strike first, you'll damn Earth forever. There are rules, structures. Diplomacy can work if you just trust." I killed the message. Trust was for fools. Diplomacy was for the dead. I deleted the file. We reached Syndic Relay 9 at 0400 standard. No alarms, no movement. Just a quiet, spinning tower of alien glass and silver steel against the void, lit from within by blue strips of energy, and manned by a handful of smug bastards who thought the humans were still licking their wounds back home. The Ashbourne launched its boarding claws, coiled black arms with breaching tips that gripped the relay's surface like fingers around a throat. Brax led the team inside. What followed wasn't a firefight. It was an execution. They tried to send out a distress call. We cut power. They tried to activate the defense drones. Brax's men tore through them before the activation finished. The Soren inside panicked, screamed. One even begged. Brax shot him mid-sentence. "Keep it clean," I ordered through comms. "Take the core intact." "Copy that. Minimal resistance. These bastards never expected to bleed today." That was the real message. We didn't want territory. We didn't want sympathy. We wanted them to feel fear. By dawn cycle, Relay 9 was ashes and static. We left one thing behind: a beacon. It pulsed with old Earth code, binary sequences that translated to a single phrase. You abandoned us. We learned. Now we return. And the galaxy heard it. 3 days later, we got a ping from the edge of the rim line, the Vardos sector. A council fleet, small but armed. 2 destroyers, 1 command vessel, and an envoy. They weren't expecting a fight. They were expecting a message, a meeting. They sent a transmission. I watched it from the command bridge as the hologram sparked to life. And there he was. Elias Darrow, still smug, still pretending he understood Earth. His eyes scanned the room before locking onto me. I told them you'd respond with force. I just didn't think you'd fall this far. I stepped forward. Number, you just hoped we wouldn't survive long enough to return. He sighed, hands folded. Still the same diplomatic snake I once trusted. You've made your point, Commander. The Council is willing to reopen discussions, reinstatement, trade, recognition. Recognition? I laughed. You exiled us, starved us, watched us die. Now that we've built something stronger than you ever imagined, you want to talk? I want to stop more people from dying. Then stay out of our way. His voice turned colder. You don't want peace, you want war. I leaned in. Number, I want memory. I want the galaxy to remember what happens when you push humanity into the dirt. You thought we'd vanish. Instead, we evolved. The feed cut. Strath turned to me. Orders? I looked at the holo map. Their fleet hovered just outside our missile range. They crossed the border. That makes them trespassers. Strath gave the signal. Ashbourne fired first. 3 missiles streaked into the void, followed by kinetic slugs. The Council destroyers scrambled defenses, but it was too late. 1 went up in flames. The command ship tried to flee. We clipped its engines and left it spinning. Let them live. Let them report back. After the battle, I sat alone again. War wasn't the goal, but it was always the outcome. I looked at the stars and thought about Earth, about the cities we'd lost, the ones they never even bothered to name in Council archives, about the billions of voices silenced when they decided we weren't ready to stand among them. They made that call. Now we were making ours. No more exile, no more mercy, just fire. The victory felt hollow. We crippled the Council fleet. We sent their envoy limping back to his masters with smoke in his lungs and our warning echoing in his ears. But there was no cheering aboard the Ashbourne, no chants, no celebration. We were men of war, not children who won a schoolyard fight. The enemy bled, yes, but we knew they'd come back bigger and angrier. In the aftermath, the crew worked in silence, repairing heat exchangers and sealing hull breaches from the skirmish. I walked the lower decks alone, past the tech bays, and into the quartering block, rows of grim-faced soldiers sleeping with weapons by their bunks, eyes always half open. War forged men like steel, but it also wore down their edges. You could see it in the way they moved. Quieter, heavier, always expecting something worse around the corner. In Brax's quarters, I found him sitting alone, armor plates on the table, wiping blood off his gauntlets. Not Council blood. One of ours. What happened? I asked. He didn't look up. Lieutenant Kerr started mouthing off. Said this wasn't what he signed up for. Called the attack on Syndic a massacre. Said we were just like them now. My jaw tightened. And? He reached for his sidearm. I reached first. He finally looked at me. Don't worry, I didn't kill him. Just made sure he remembered what side he's on. He's one of ours, I muttered, though the words felt hollow. Brax leaned forward, voice low. That's what scares me. There's more like him. Officers with cold feet. People who thought we were building Earth's future, not a wrecking ball. We are building Earth's future. No, Brax said. We're building its revenge. He was right. And that truth cut deeper than I wanted to admit. Back in the command room, Strath was waiting with a hard face and worse news. We intercepted a transmission, not from the Council, from inside the fleet. Someone sent an encrypted burst signal toward the Tri-Cluster sector, non-authorized code. My blood ran cold. We've got a traitor? Strath nodded. Working on decryption, but the packet was short, clean. This wasn't a mistake. Someone fed them information. It didn't surprise me, just angered me. Every movement we made had enemies clawing to pull us back down, some outside, some inside. Scramble the encryption arrays, lock down external comms, no messages leave without my sign-off. Strath stepped closer. Do you want me to run a purge? I stared at him. The thought had already crossed my mind. A fleet-wide interrogation. Systematic, brutal, thorough. It would scare the loyal and destroy morale. But if we didn't root this out now, it could rot everything from the inside. Number not yet. Let the rat think they're safe, I said. But keep watching. I want names. He nodded and left. I sat down, staring at the blinking stars on the navigation grid. Ashbourne was due to rendezvous with the Reclaim Armada in 6 hours. 3 other capital ships would meet us at Vega Dust, a backwater mining colony turned rebel haven. From there, we'd begin the first coordinated assault on Council space in human history. But now, it felt like the hammer we built might crack before it ever struck. 6 hours later, we reached Vega Dust. If Earth was born from fire, Vega was born from pain. The planet looked like a dried-out corpse, its skies bruised with industrial smog and lightning that never stopped crawling across the horizon. The mining towers stood like crooked teeth against the storm. We descended through turbulence to the hidden base, a hangar shielded by rock, where the Reclaim Armada waited like sleeping giants. The Crucible, Iron March, and Bloodwake, each one scarred, welded together with stolen tech and raw hatred. I walked through the war room as the captains gathered. Captain Harl of the Bloodwake was the first to speak, a short, scarred brute with no love for protocol. Heard you blew a hole through a council envoy and sent him crying back to his lizard bosses. Not subtle, Commander. I wasn't trying to be subtle, I said. Captain Soren of the Crucible, lean and cautious, folded his arms. Subtlety is what's kept us alive for 10 years. Now we've got every scanner in 3 sectors looking for us. That's the point, I shot back. The Council only respects force. If we want a seat at the table again, we flip the table first. The room grew tense. Then Harl barked a laugh. Finally, someone's saying it. Damn right. Burn it all. Let them rebuild under our boot this time. But Soren wasn't convinced. And what about the other colonies? The fringe worlds? The ones who want peace and trade, not blood and rubble? They had peace, I said, and the Council used it to strangle us. Soren frowned. We were supposed to build Earth's redemption, not become warlords. I stared at him, every word measured. Earth doesn't need redemption. Earth needs revenge. That shut him up. But not everyone agreed. I could see it in their eyes. The cracks were forming. Ideals were colliding. Some of these men still believed in the Council's game, still thought we could claw back favor through restraint. They were wrong. That night, I received an anonymous message on my private console. No traceable source. Just one line of text. There is another way. Don't become what they called us. I read it 10 times, then I deleted it. The next day, we moved the Armada toward the Heferix system, our first real strike point inside Council territory. Not a civilian target this time. A weapons facility, one of the places they manufactured the nerve agents used on Europa and Phobos. This was justice. But as the fleet prepared for hypershift, Strath entered the bridge with grim news. "We have a name." My heart froze. "The traitor?" He handed me a data pad. One name flashed on the screen, Lieutenant Commander Terrace Miles. My chest tightened. Terrace had served under me for 8 years, one of the original survivors from the first Mars blockades. Loyal, quiet, efficient. Or so I thought. "He's been sending small data packets, fleet positions, strike plans, even your movement logs. Whoever's feeding him is deep in Council intelligence." I didn't ask what Strath wanted me to do. I already knew. We dragged Terrace into the interrogation hold. I didn't bring soldiers. I didn't need witnesses. He sat cuffed, bruised, but unbroken. When I entered, he didn't beg or make excuses, just stared at me. "Why?" I asked. He smiled bitterly. "Because this isn't Earth anymore. It's just a graveyard in orbit. You gave them our plans. You risked everything. I tried to stop you from burning down the galaxy in Earth's name, but you're not here to save it. You're here to punish the universe." He wasn't entirely wrong. And that made me hate him more. I raised my weapon. He didn't flinch, just stared. "You'll die a traitor," I said. He nodded. "And you'll live as a monster." I pulled the trigger. No trial, no last words. Just silence. Back on the Ashbourne, I stood before the fleet. Every screen lit up with my face as I spoke. "We have been infiltrated, betrayed by one of our own. That betrayal has been purged." There was no applause, just grim faces. Men and women who knew the price of war was getting higher. "We move on, Heferix. No delay, no doubt. This time we don't just hit them, we cripple them." I ended the broadcast and stared at the stars. How far was too far? How much of the man I used to be still lived beneath the armor and commands? But the voice that always echoed in my mind had no time for philosophy. It said one thing: they exiled us to die. We answer with fire. We jumped into Heferix space without warning. No communications, no signatures, just mass and fire. The Ashbourne, flanked by the Crucible and Iron March, dropped from hypershift like thunder across a clear sky, emerging just outside the Council defense perimeter. The system's twin suns cast long orange shadows across the Council's weapons facility. Station 14 Delta, an ugly stretch of steel orbiting a red dwarf moon. It looked harmless from the outside. No guns, no beacons, no defenses active. But we knew better. The weapons station had a quiet reputation, one never acknowledged in public records. It was where the Council developed their chemical weapons, engineered population control agents, and tested neuro-warfare tech that could shut down a soldier's nervous system in 5 seconds flat. The kind of tools they never admitted to, but used when they needed colonies to vanish without a fuss. Europa, Phobos, Skellen's Drift. I remember the screams from Europa's last transmission like they were tattooed into my skull. Today, they'd be answered. Our first volley wasn't kinetic. It was electromagnetic. EMP bursts stripped the station's shields before they could fully engage. Drones scrambled inside, their systems glitching. Turrets flared and died. In seconds, we breached their outer defenses without firing a single bullet. "Breach pods ready," Strath said behind me. I strapped in, fingers tightening around my rail rifle. No survivors, no negotiations. We go in hard and clean out the rot. Strath nodded. "This one's personal." The pods launched, slamming into the station's hull like thunder cracks. We moved in teams. Myself, Brax, 2 shock troopers. Zero gravity, no comms chatter, the silence of vengeance. Inside, we found nothing but horror. The first hallway was empty. The second held corpses, Soren scientists in white robes, some still strapped to their consoles, eyes frozen in death. Not a shot fired, just massive decompression damage and scattered debris. Then we reached the test labs. That's where the stench hit. Rows of cells, glass tubes, stasis chambers. Inside them, humans. Some were alive, some weren't. All were broken. They were test subjects, lab rats, Earthborn prisoners abducted during exile, used for decades to test toxins, neural disruptors, and genetic rewiring tech. Their bodies were thin, wired with tubes and scars, eyes clouded. Some had limbs replaced with Council biotech. Others were too far gone to recognize. I stopped breathing. One of them, an old man, barely clinging to life, looked at me as we passed. He whispered something. I leaned in. "They kept us to learn how to kill you better." I pulled my sidearm and shot him clean through the head. Mercy. Strath stared. "Sir, no one leaves here like that," I said. "No one." We moved room by room, finding more. Files, videos, detailed logs on how human physiology responded to gas attacks, how long a brain survived full neural collapse. They'd been preparing for a war they started, while still pretending they were civilized. My blood boiled. We reached the command center. 6 council officers barricaded inside. Mostly Vurni, those cold-blooded bastards with translucent skin and soulless black eyes. One of them held a staff, the mark of a researcher class. She tried to speak. "We were under Directive 7, authorized containment research. This was protocol." Brax opened fire before she finished. "Burn it all," I said. We planted charges in every major corridor, explosive caps in the central core. The data we took would go to Earth, but the facility itself would become space dust. A funeral pyre for the forgotten. But as we prepared to leave, Strath motioned me over. We found one more section, sealed behind multiple encryptions. "Show me." He led me to a chamber deeper in the station. The door was reinforced titanium steel hybrid, unusual for a lab. Brax used an old mining charge to breach it. Inside wasn't a lab. It was a prison. 1 cell, 1 chair, and 1 occupant. He was young, maybe mid-20s, human, fully alert, no visible scarring. He looked at me with cold, calculating eyes. Not afraid, not broken. Calm. He stood when I entered. "You're not Council," he said. "Number were what they tried to erase." He nodded. "Then maybe you're the ones who can kill them." I didn't speak. He stepped forward, hands visible. "Name's Kyle, born on Earth, taken when I was 7. They didn't test me, they trained me. For what? To think like them. To lead like them. I've seen inside their command structure, their hidden fleets, their psychological warfare plans. I know how they operate. And why should I believe you?" He stared straight into me. "Because I want them dead more than you do." That was a lie. No one wanted it more than me, but it didn't matter. Because if he was telling the truth, he was more valuable than any data core. "Put him in containment," I ordered. "If he lies, kill him. If he tells the truth, we burn the Council to the ground." The station exploded behind us as we left orbit, silent and slow, like a dying star curling in on itself. The flames curled through vacuum and debris scattered like bones. Another piece of their empire gone. Another sin avenged. Back aboard the Ashbourne, I stared at the stars again. I thought about that boy. Kale. What kind of war do you have to survive to speak like that at 20 years old? Strath approached quietly. Heferick's strike was a success. 0 losses. 2 injured. All files secured. Civilian traffic recorded the explosion and is broadcasting system-wide. I nodded. They'll come hard next time. Strath nodded. Let them. We're ready. But I wasn't sure we were, because every victory cut deeper. Every blow we landed felt less like justice and more like obsession, and I was starting to feel the weight in my bones. But the war didn't care about my bones. It only cared about fire, and we were good at fire. The flames of Hefferix still echoed in my mind, but the real fire was brewing inside the fleet. Victory used to mean unity. Back when every man on board believed we were the last hope of Earth. Back when the blood we spilled felt necessary. But after Hefferix, something shifted. The silence in the halls of Ashbourne was thicker now. No talk, no drinking, no music, just soldiers going through the motions with tired eyes and tighter grips on their sidearms. We'd won, but something had broken, and I wasn't sure we could fix it. I stepped into the observation chamber, where Cale sat alone behind a thick wall of reinforced glass. He'd been there for 2 days. No restraints, no interrogation yet. Just food, silence, and surveillance. Some of the officers wanted him executed on sight. Others called him a goldmine of intel. Me? I wasn't sure what the hell he was. The Council didn't keep someone alive that long without purpose. They didn't train humans unless they had plans far worse than death. He stood as I entered, hands behind his back, posture military sharp. "Enjoying your stay?" I asked. He smirked. "I've had worse cages." "Let's talk." "About what?" "My childhood under psychotropic reconditioning, the way they used humans as chess pieces in their war simulations, or the time they tried to overwrite my empathy response with synthetic logic implants. I want names, systems, targets. I want to know what's coming." Cale's face changed, just slightly, that tiny flicker of something behind his calm exterior. He sat back down. "They're scared, you know? The Council. You killed more of their people in a month than the last 4 rebellions combined. They don't understand you. That terrifies them." "Good. But you don't understand them either." I leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Enlighten me." He took a breath. "They don't play for victory. They play for history. If they can't erase you with strength, they'll erase you with time. They'll make sure no one remembers Earth ever existed. No name, no flag, just a blacked-out system on an old archive. And we'll stop them." Coyle tilted his head. "Maybe, if you don't tear yourselves apart first." That line stayed with me. It echoed later during a meeting with the other captains. Soren, ever the cautious one, had called the emergency summit aboard the Crucible. The war table was surrounded by grim faces. Harl, Brax, Strath, myself, and a few newly promoted fleet officers from the outer wings. "We're seeing unrest," Soren began. "Not just nerves, fracture. Some of the reclaim battalions are refusing orders. Others want to pull out and set up colonies instead of continuing assaults." "We knew some would fold," Harl said. "Let the cowards go. The rest of us keep swinging." "It's not that simple," Soren snapped. "There's dissent growing among our own command corps. Word is spreading about the Hefferix prisoners. People think we crossed a line." I spoke up. "We crossed the line the day they bombed New Kyoto into a crater. No one we've killed so far was innocent." "Maybe," Soren said, "but maybe that's not the point anymore." "What is?" He looked straight at me. "What are we becoming?" For a moment, no one said a word. Then Brax slammed his fist on the table. "We're becoming what we have to. The Council made us monsters. We're just finishing the transformation." That wasn't just anger in his voice. That was belief. Dangerous belief. After the meeting, I walked the hangar floor alone. Soldiers sharpened blades they'd never use, cleaned guns already loaded. Men born on Earth, raised in chaos, who had nothing but this war. and I began to wonder. What happens when the war ends? If it ends. Strath met me near the engine bay. His face was unreadable. "We have a problem," he said. "Another traitor?" "Worse, a transmission." He handed me the data chip. Encrypted, council sigil. I decoded it in my quarters. A voice. Synthetic, hollow, alien. "Human Fleet Command, you have broken interstellar law. You are considered a Class 1 galactic threat. Cease all operations immediately or face annihilation. This is not a negotiation." It wasn't signed. But we knew who it came from. The message ended with coordinates: deep space, remote, neutral, a meeting point, a trap. I played it again, and again. Then I stared at the star map. They were coming. Back in the observation room, I played the message for Kale. He laughed when it ended. "You scared them more than I thought. Is it real?" He nodded. "They'll come, but not to talk." "Then why send a message?" "Because they want a show. They want a stage before the kill. You've hurt their pride, Commander. Now they need to erase you in front of the galaxy." "How many ships?" "Enough to blot out the suns." I stood up, jaw tight. "Then we hit first." Kale shook his head. "That's what they want. They want you to look like the villain, the rogue, the madman who destroyed peace." I leaned in close, voice low. "You think I care what I look like? I just want them dead." He smiled again. "Then we're not so different." I called the captains again. This time I laid it bare. "We have one shot," I said. "A council fleet is gathering. They think we'll come to their trap and play by their rules. We don't." "What do you suggest?" Soren asked. "We intercept them early, catch them mid-route, divide them, bleed them, before they consolidate." Strath pointed at the map. "Intercept here. Chiral expanse, debris fields, poor sensors. They won't expect it." Harl nodded. "I like it. In and out, smash and vanish." Brax stood up. "Let's break their fangs." No one objected. For now. As the fleet mobilized, I returned to Kale one last time. "Why didn't they break you?" I asked. He looked down. "They tried, but I hated them too much. I never forgot where I came from." "Earth?" He shook his head. "I don't even remember Earth. I was taken too young, but I remembered the faces of the ones they tortured beside me. I remembered the silence of those who died screaming. Hate keeps you whole when nothing else does." I didn't respond. I just stared. He finally looked at me. "Just don't lose yourself before you win." Too late, I thought. But I didn't say it. The fleet jumped into the chiral expanse in tight formation. The void was filled with dead satellites, scrap metal, and ancient wreckage from a forgotten war the Council never bothered to clean up. It was the perfect ambush site. Our scanners lit up within minutes. A Council carrier, 3 escort destroyers, 2 scouts. We hit them hard. Missiles, EMPs, boarding skiffs. The first destroyer didn't even get its shields up. It split down the middle, spilling fire and bodies into vacuum. The scouts scattered. The carrier tried to retreat. We disabled it, then boarded it. Inside, we found what we feared. Another lab, humans. This time, children. They weren't testing them. They were training them to kill us. When I returned to the Ashbourne, I didn't speak. I just sat in my chair, stared at the stars, and let the silence eat me alive. Because the war wasn't just outside anymore. It was inside us, and I wasn't sure there was anything human left to save. We buried our dead in silence. The battle at the chiral expanse was a victory, but not without cost. 3 Earth ships were destroyed, including the Vanguard, with over 900 aboard. We didn't even recover half the bodies, just names, ranks, and echoes on comm logs. I stood in the cargo bay of the Ashbourne with the others, watching the coffin pods line up. No flags, no anthems, just men and women zipped into cold black tubes and fired into space. Strath stood beside me. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. We were running out of people faster than we were running out of enemies. Back in my quarters, I stared at the latest intel from the captured Council carrier. Kale had been right. They were training Earthborn children. Not just indoctrinating them, but chemically altering them, burning out empathy and free thought through neural warfare conditioning. And it wasn't new. It had been going on for decades. Some of them were teens now, weaponized. One group was missing from the manifest, relocated 3 weeks before the ambush. Destination, Sol. My stomach turned to stone. "Get me Strath," I barked into comms. He arrived minutes later, out of breath, armor half-locked. "Sir?" I showed him the file. He read it, blinked, then again. "They're going after Earth?" "Not just going. They're already there." We'd spent so long fighting on the outskirts, in the shadows. It never occurred to us the Council would strike at home while we were bleeding them dry across the stars. This wasn't just war anymore. This was execution. Within the hour, the fleet was in motion, what remained of it. We had 27 ships left that could fight. When the war began, we had over 60. But none of that mattered now. The Council had reached Earth, and if they were there, they weren't negotiating. The jump into the Sol system wasn't coordinated. It couldn't be. We scattered, fragmented, charging through different warp lanes to avoid Council nets. Some of us wouldn't make it. We knew that. But we had to arrive. Somehow, the Ashborn breached the system edge 12 hours later, and Earth was burning. From orbit, we saw the wreckage, shattered satellites, flaming colonies, civilian transports ripped in half, orbital platforms turned to debris fields. The old Terranet grid was offline, completely dark. That hadn't happened since the first Exile decades ago. "Patch me through to Earth Command," I snapped. Nothing. Static. Then a single burst came through. One message. "They're inside the atmosphere. They're not here to fight. They're here to finish it." Then silence again. We made descent under fire. Council defense units blanketed the stratosphere, drones and interceptors with beam rails and anti-personnel shredders. Our dropship shook like a dying animal, alarms blaring in every direction. I strapped in, eyes fixed forward. Brax sat across from me. He looked calm. Too calm. "They knew," he muttered. "What?" He looked up. They always knew how this would end. We landed near what was left of New Nairobi, one of Earth's last surviving mega-settlements. Now a crater. Bodies were everywhere. Not soldiers, families, civilians, children. Council strike teams had left nothing alive. We moved on foot, cutting through smoke and ash. The city was crawling with the enemy, not just aliens, but humans. Those kids we'd seen in the files, now soldiers in black body armor with no insignia, no voice, and no mercy. They opened fire. We answered. The streets turned red. I lost 3 men breaching the Council command tower. We found the uplink room intact, and someone waiting inside. Kale, unshackled, unescorted. He stood in the middle of the room like he'd been expecting me. "Hello, Commander." I raised my weapon. "Don't," he said. "Give me one reason." "I didn't lie to you," he said. "Everything I told you about the Council was true. Everything they're doing is real." "Then why the hell are you here?" He stepped closer. No fear. "Because I had to make sure you followed them here." My hand tightened around the trigger. "What the hell are you talking about?" "They wanted you to come back," he said slowly. "They knew you'd strike the outer systems. They wanted you to chase blood, to burn their labs, to look like monsters. And when you were stretched thin, they hit Earth, not just to kill it, to bait us," I muttered. He nodded. "To end you." I stared, heart beating like a drum. "So what are you?" He smiled. The last test. Then he vanished. Alarms blared. Strath's voice cut in over comms. "Commander, incoming fleet, Council class, 60-plus ships. They just dropped out of hyperspace. No hails, no warning." The final strike. Back aboard the Ashbourne, chaos reigned. The remaining Earth fleet scrambled to orbit, forming a fragmented wall over the planet. We had the high ground, but not the numbers. Not the strength. This wasn't a battle. This was extinction. "Form up," I barked. "Titan formation. No ship fights alone." We launched everything. Missiles, plasma rails, drones. They launched more. Their ships were sleek, seamless, powered by cores we couldn't replicate even if we wanted to. Ours were ugly, armored beasts, fragments of stolen tech welded to rage. And for a while, we held. Until they brought out a new ship. Massive. Not just a battleship, a world eater. No designation. Just black metal and a crimson core that pulsed like a living thing. It hovered over the Pacific, dwarfing everything. And then it spoke. Not in words, in pain. Every human on board, every ship felt it. A wave of agony, like nails through our skulls, like memories turning inside out. Men screamed. Some died on the spot. Brain hemorrhages, neural collapses, psychic warfare, new, weaponized. Earth's fleet fractured. Ships broke formation. Some fled. Some exploded mid-transmission. Strath was bleeding from the nose. "What is that?" I gritted my teeth. "Our end." But we didn't run. I grabbed the comms. "All ships, listen to me. This is the moment they designed for. This is the scene they've staged. They want to make us vanish, to break us so hard we're never spoken of again. But we are Earth. We were born in fire. We rose in exile. And we are not leaving without making them bleed." The pain didn't stop. But we moved. The Ashbourne dove straight into the Council fleet, flanked by Crucible and the last surviving dreadnought, Shatterwake. We targeted the psychic core. Every shot we had. Brax led a boarding unit into the World Eater. I never saw him again. But I saw the explosion. When the core ruptured, it didn't go quietly. It screamed, and it took 20 Council ships with it. We lost Shatterwake in the shockwave. We lost Crucible when a Council destroyer rammed it at full speed. And then Earth went dark. We crash-landed somewhere outside what used to be Madrid. Sky was black. Stars gone, no communications, no ships. Just me, Strath, and maybe 20 survivors. We don't know if Earth won. We don't know if anyone's left out there. But we're alive, and that means the fire's not out. Not yet. The sky hadn't cleared in 3 days. Ash rained down like snow, soft and weightless, until you touched it and found it wasn't soft at all. Just dust from buildings, bodies, and the last traces of civilization. Earth had been hit hard, not just by weapons but by silence. Comms were gone, satellites fried, the Terranet grid had been completely erased. And the cities? Dead. Gutted. Burned. The Council hadn't just bombed Earth, they'd cracked it open. They left just enough of us alive to witness it, to break us from the inside. But I wasn't broken. Not yet. We'd set up camp in the ruins of an old supply depot 5 clicks east of New Madrid's crater line. Me, Strath, and what was left of the Ashbourne's infantry wing. 20 men, 2 broken drones, and 1 busted railgun that we'd salvaged from a fallen dreadnought. Food was low. Water was worse. Morale? Non-existent. Most of the men hadn't spoken more than a few words in days. They just worked, rewired generators, laid traps, tuned their rifles. They knew what was coming. The Council didn't believe in unfinished business. They'd be back, to clean up what was left, to erase us completely. I sat outside that night, watching the fires still glowing over the horizon, old cities burning like candles in the dark. Strath approached, limping slightly. His arm was in a sling, his left eye patched with torn cloth. "They found a Council scout drone near the old mag train tunnels," he said. "Wired with surveillance gear. It's watching, not attacking." "They're mapping survivors," I said. He nodded. "We're the Resistance now, Commander. The Rebellion. The thing we used to chase." I stared at the black sky. We're the reminder. We began striking back the next morning. Small, fast hits. We moved through the ruins in units of 3, hit their scouts, stole their ammo, planted scramblers on their drones. Our goal wasn't victory. It was memory. We wanted them to feel Earth's breath on their necks, even in silence. We'd strike, vanish, and strike again, every man with a rifle, every boy with a knife. We stopped calling ourselves soldiers. We were wolves now. One night I found an old transmission beacon half buried in rubble. It wasn't much, but it worked long enough to catch a signal. A weak one. Short range, encrypted, Earthborn code. "This is Bastion 7, Southern Hemisphere. Council patrols increasing. Civilian groups scattered. Request contact with any surviving fleet command. Repeat, Bastion 7 still standing." I played it twice. Then I stood up. Strath looked at me. "Bastion 7? Pre-exile military bunker, buried under the Andes, off-grid since the Purge." "You think they're still alive?" "They're not dead yet," I said, "and that's all I need." The journey took 3 days through the wreckage of old highways and shattered cities. We moved on foot, no vehicles. Anything that made noise would draw drones. Along the way, we picked up more survivors. An old mechanic from Siberia who still knew how to rig Council power cores. A teenage girl who'd killed 3 patrol drones with nothing but a heat lance. A former Reclaim soldier named Kell. Quiet, scarred, missing 2 fingers. But the way he carried his rifle told me everything I needed. We didn't talk much. Talking was a luxury. Breathing was work. By the time we reached the Andes, we'd grown to nearly 40. Starving, exhausted, bloodied, but alive. We found Bastion 7 buried under 30 feet of rubble. Still sealed, still powered. We cleared the entrance and sent a coded knock sequence through the old panel. It responded. Doors opened, and light poured out. Inside, it was like stepping into a ghost of old Earth. The air was clean, the lights were working, bunkers intact, supplies rationed but stable, and people, almost 70 of them, living underground since the Purge. Some were military, most were civilians, but they still had teeth. Colonel Dren met us in the war room, gray-bearded, square-jawed, voice like gravel in a meat grinder. "You came back," he said. I nodded. "Not to win, just to hurt them." He chuckled. "Good, because winning's long gone. But bleeding them out, that's still possible." He showed me the maps, Council troop movements, drone paths, hidden transmitters placed in key outposts across the globe. Earth wasn't dead yet. It was just very, very angry. We spent a week rebuilding Bastion 7 into something meaner. Turrets, comm jammers, EMP lures, every tunnel booby-trapped with repurposed tech and good old-fashioned explosives. We weren't planning to survive. We were planning to take as many of them with us as we could. And then the call came. One of our scouts intercepted a priority Council transmission, bounced off a relay tower they hadn't expected us to reclaim. It said, "Phase 2 commencing. Human eradication protocol active. Subject 0 relocating to extraction zone Delta. Confirm orbital clean sweep after removal complete." Strath looked at me. "Subject 0? I didn't answer. Because I already knew. Kale. He wasn't just a defector. He was the Council's final weapon. Everything we'd seen, his survival, his intel, his warnings, had been a setup. He'd never left their grasp. He was part of their plan. And they were extracting him, which meant he still had value, which meant we had one last shot. The extraction zone was in the ruins of old Australia. Desert now. But Council transports were landing there in mass, clearing the zone, sterilizing it from orbit. They weren't just moving him. They were preparing to unleash him. What he really was, we didn't know. Not yet. But we were going to find out. And then we were going to end it. We gathered every fighter from Bastion 7, 57 men, 11 drones, 4 stolen Council rifles, 2 grav bikes, no air support, no backup, just fury. We moved through the red sands like ghosts. Every patrol we saw, we silenced. Every checkpoint we passed, we buried, until we reached the heart of the extraction zone. There he was. Coil, standing on a Council platform surrounded by elite guards, his face emotionless. Strath raised his scope. "I've got the shot." "Wait," I said, because something was wrong. Coil wasn't restrained. He was glowing, skin faintly pulsing, and the air around him shimmered. He looked directly at us, even from a mile away. He smiled. And then the sky opened. The Council had called down a new weapon, not a fleet, not fire, but something worse. A null wave, an energy storm designed to rewrite biological matter. Strath screamed as his arm disappeared, not exploded, not vaporized, vanished like it had never existed. 2 of our men fell screaming as their eyes bled out of their skulls. I yelled over the comms, "Fire everything, now!" We unloaded every weapon we had into the extraction zone. Missiles, lasers, rail slugs. The Council guards fell, the platform cracked, and Kale stood in the center, untouched. Then he lifted his hand, and our weapons melted in mid-air. He wasn't human anymore. He wasn't Council. He was something in between. He was the product of all their fear, all their experiments. A weapon that looked like us, but didn't bleed like us, didn't think like us, didn't remember us. I charged anyway. 1 last bullet left in my sidearm. I aimed it at his skull. He looked at me. "Why do you fight?" "Because I remember who we were." And I pulled the trigger. The bullet hit, right between the eyes. He dropped. But the shimmer didn't stop. The world didn't go silent when Kale fell. It screamed. Even dead, he was still a weapon. The Council had built him like a ticking bomb wrapped in flesh, designed not to explode, but to unravel everything around him. As his body dropped to the cracked stone, the shimmer around him didn't fade. It expanded. I felt it in my bones before I saw it, like something pulling at my insides, trying to remember the blueprint of my existence just so it could erase it. The air shimmered. My vision twisted sideways. Sound warped into a slow, choking echo. Strath was already crawling toward cover, half-conscious, bleeding from every pore. The men we brought with us, what was left of them, were either dead or staggering, their weapons useless, their minds barely holding. And me? I kept walking, toward Kale's body, toward the storm. His eyes were still open. Blank. Lifeless. But the storm was coming from him, not around him. Some last code, some final activation the Council never told us about. I dropped to one knee beside him, and I whispered, "I hope they used you. I hope they twisted you so bad you don't even know your own name anymore. But in the end, you still looked like one of us." I reached for the small satchel on his belt. Council-grade tech, embedded with the shimmer. A heartbeat away from disintegration. But inside it? A pulse generator, unarmed, unstable, built to broadcast something, probably his death, a signal, a confirmation. I didn't hesitate. I tore the drive out, wires still sparking, and then I ran. Behind me the ground cracked like glass. The shimmer boiled into light. And then, nothing. The entire extraction platform blinked out of existence. No explosion, no fire, just gone, erased from the planet like it had never been there. But I was still running. I woke up buried under rubble. My side was on fire. My vision foggy, but I was alive, and so was Strath. He pulled me out of the debris hours later, his face pale, his right hand now gone, burned to the bone. "Guess that was phase 2, he muttered. "No," I croaked. "That was the end of it." We stood at the edge of a dead crater, wind sweeping ash around us. There was nothing left of Cale. No body, no signal, no platform. Whatever he was supposed to be, whatever message the Council wanted his death to send. We killed it. It took us a week to crawl back to Bastion 7. Less than 20 of us made it. We were ghosts now, bloody, limping, infected with radiation, some blind, others half-mad. But we walked into the gates like we'd just won the war. Because in a way, we had. Colonel Dren was waiting. He looked older, or maybe just tired. "You killed him," he said. "We felt the pulse from here." "Did it stop anything?" I asked. He shrugged. "We haven't seen a Council drone in 3 days, and satellites picked up something strange. Their ships? They're pulling back, system-wide." Strath stepped forward. "Retreat?" "Or repositioning," Dren said. "But I think they expected something else. Maybe Cale was their endgame. Maybe they lost more than we realize." I sat down, finally feeling the weight in my chest. The pain, the loss, the truth. We hadn't won. We hadn't lost either. We'd just changed the war. The weeks that followed were a blur of rebuilding. We scavenged tech from wrecks, rearmed with what we could. Word spread through the old tunnels, bunkers lighting up, old resistance cells coming out of hiding. Earth wasn't whole, but it was awake. And the Council? They had to live with that. They had to live knowing they didn't erase us, that they didn't finish the job, that the humans they exiled, bombed, and experimented on were still breathing, still fighting, that their perfect monster, Coil, had fallen, and not as a symbol of their power, but of their failure. One night, as I walked the perimeter, Strath caught up to me. "Got a report," he said. "One of our hacked satellites picked up a transmission, Council frequency, weak but looping. What's it say?" He handed me a recorder. I played it. A woman's voice, calm, alien, tired. "Subject failed. Earth not compliant. Human resistance exceeds projections. Recommendation: cease conversion. Initiate long-term isolation protocol. Redesignation: quarantined species. Status: dangerous." I laughed. For the first time in years, I laughed. "Dangerous," I said. Strath smiled, bloody teeth showing. They finally got the message. That night, I sat at the edge of the bunker. Stars overhead. Silence all around. I thought about Earth, about exile, about the war. We didn't get justice. Not really. The men we lost, Brax, Kell, the thousands aboard Ashbourne, Crucible, Shatterwake, they wouldn't be coming back. We didn't raise a flag over the Council's heart. We didn't reclaim the stars. But we didn't need to, because we did something worse. We made the galaxy afraid of us. We made them remember that humans don't beg. We bite. We burn our dead. And then we come for the ones who lit the fire. They'll watch us now. From a distance. They'll label us unstable, irrational, violent. Let them. Because for the first time in centuries, Earth belongs to Earth again. The Council may have space, they may have fleets, they may have entire systems under their control, but they will never again set foot here without fear in their throats and fire behind their eyes. And every time they hear the word Earth, they will remember the day we stood up, the day we burned their god, the day the exiles came home,